Hey everyone, it's Sami from Sami's Sweet Life, and today I'm talking iPads again. I know you guys have gotten a ton of iPad videos lately with this whole process and ordeal with getting the iPad. I ended up testing out the 2018 regular iPad for a day and really quickly deciding I'm going to keep my iPad Pro. There are pros and cons to both of them. The main big thing is price. Bottom line, if you can afford the more expensive iPad Pro, the new one with the magnetic pencil, go for it. If you can afford it, just get the other one. It's a lot more convenient. It's definitely more intuitive and easy to use versus the regular iPad with the old style pencil. I think the pencil itself is totally a game changer. So I purchased the regular iPad on Black Friday. It was like 70 or 80 bucks off. And so the price difference between the regular priced iPad Pro with the new pencil versus the regular iPad with the old pencil, it was almost exactly $600 difference. So I really took that into consideration when I was weighing out each one. I feel like for your money, the regular iPad gets you a long way, but all of the cons for me had to do with just convenience and ease of use. I feel like both machines are incredibly powerful machines. They'll probably get the job done, whatever kind of job you're doing, unless you're really doing a lot of heavy-duty video editing or music making or something where you need the more powerful iPad Pro. You probably can get away with the regular iPad, and I feel like that's my case for what I want to do. I could totally get away with just the regular iPad, but if I can afford the other one, I don't want to just get away with it. I want to absolutely love it, and I feel like that's really the difference for me. If I stick with the iPad regular, I will do fine. It'll be a little bit annoying, certain aspects of it, which I'll get into in more detail in this video. But if I keep the iPad Pro, I will just love it. I will love it. It's super easy. And that was the difference in that $600 for me, is something that I'm gonna love versus something that's just merely gonna get me by. I feel like there's a big difference on a few things in here that are key differences for me that made the regular iPad just not as good for me. And I gave you the basics of which I think is better. I'm gonna go ahead and walk into some of the more detailed elements of both of the iPads. I do have both of them here. If you watched my Apple Dilemma video, I had some problems with my iPad Pro. I had really major customer service issues where I was thinking, I'm just gonna downgrade. They kind of ticked me off about the whole thing. Those things were made right, and I had already purchased the iPad on Black Friday by the time everything was made right again. And so I thought about just returning it and not even opening it. But then I thought about it and I'm like, I'm gonna give this an honest try. It's a $600 difference in price. I'm gonna give it a try. And I found out really quickly, like there are things that I could definitely live with. I could get over all of the gripes that I have with it, but it's just not gonna be as easy. And so I did end up opening it. I do plan on returning it, and I do feel kind of bad that I did open it and I'm going to go return it. That's definitely why return policies exist, so that you can test things out, and if they're not gonna work for you, then you know. My third iPad Pro was still in its original packaging. I would keep the iPad, return the brand new iPad Pro, not opened up. It turned out I preferred the iPad Pro, so I went ahead and already opened the iPad Pro and I have it set up now. I did want to tell you guys I do feel kind of bad for opening it, but at the same time, that's why they offer these return policies, so you can return things. I just don't ordinarily do stuff like this, where I open it and then return it like that. But anyway, so one of the main things I noticed with the regular iPad and the pencil is the clicking sound on the screen is so much louder and so much more annoying. And it's one of those things I could totally, get used to over time. But as I'm writing, it's kind of annoying me. So it's like, so it was really annoying and loud compared to the iPad Pro. It sounds less hollow to me. Definitely feel like a more hollow sound there versus there. I mean, for a lot of people, it probably won't be a big deal, but for me, like, I'm really sensitive to noises, and for me, I definitely could hear the regular iPad way louder than I could hear the iPad Pro. That was one of those convenience aesthetic things. The other main points I have to do with the pencil itself. So this pencil just doesn't feel as nice. It's not super slippery, like a lot of people say it's slippery when you're writing a lot and your hands can get clammy, your hand will slip up and down the pencil. But I didn't notice that in my own use. I'm not doing a lot of intensive things like sketching for a long period of time, so I don't think that would really be much of an issue for me. The problem I have with it is the charging method is the end cap here. And also it's a lot bigger. And so in my hand, it just doesn't feel as natural as the other one does. It doesn't have that smooth side on it. So I was constantly setting it down and it's kind of rolling away. And so I found that that would be really annoying in practical use. Of course, I could get used to it. I could get a case or something so that it wouldn't roll around. But I found it to be a lot more annoying to use this one. And now I did use it pretty intensely the first day, and I almost wore out the entire battery on the pencil, which I was surprised. It's supposed to have like a 12-hour battery life. I didn't use it anywhere near 12 hours and it still got down to like 35%. It's one of those things that I would have to charge every day. And it's just another thing I would have to remember to charge and plug in. With this one, you either charge it by plugging it in the end of the iPad, and I feel like it's a really hard press to get it in there. And it's also sticking out a lot at the end. And so I wouldn't charge it that way. I would get another lightning cable cord and use the little, where is it? I would use the little adapter piece and just use another lightning cable. But again, that's something I have to purchase on the side. It's something I have to remember to plug in at night. And it's just adding a little level of annoyance to it versus the other one. You just plug it right on the side of the iPad. It's always charged and it's just so nice. The pencil really did make a big difference for me in usability and convenience. I feel like this one fits in my hand a whole lot better. It does have that smooth side, so it does feel more like a pencil. It just feels a lot nicer in my hand with that extra flat side, and it didn't roll around because you could set it down on the side. I most of the time just stuck it right back to the side of the iPad. It just became natural. And so this one seemed very unnatural, especially from using the iPad Pro for a week. This one seemed really clunky and unnatural for me. The other one just seemed really intuitive. Those were some of the main reasons I chose the iPad Pro over the iPad. Another one is the Touch ID. I have an iPhone XS Max, and so I don't have Touch ID anymore. And going back to something with Touch ID was really annoying. I don't have really good luck with the Touch ID. Sometimes with my phone, I'd have to press a couple of times to get it to work. I found the same thing with the iPad. I was still having to press a couple of times and it wasn't just unlocking the first time I do it. So I really just don't want to go back to the Touch ID. I didn't want to go back to the home button. I'm just so used to it without, and it just feels more natural to not have it. I found going back to be annoying. Of course, you know, I'd live with it, I could get over it, but why would I want to? That's the thing. If I can afford the other one, why would I want to live with all these things? They're all just little minor annoyances. They're not deal breakers. I totally could get used to all these things, but why do I want to? Why don't I just go with the one I know I'm gonna love, and it's just a lot more fluid. It's kind of the same overarching idea that you're going to see throughout this video. Another thing with having the home button versus not having the home button, I can tap this one and it turns on. I would have to, you know, unlock it with my face, whereas this one, it's actually not even on right now, but you can't just tap it to wake it up. You have to press the button to wake it up. And I am really used to that with my phone. I can tap my phone and start my phone. With this one, I can tap it and start it, and it's so much easier to do it that way versus pressing the button. I found that was a little extra lag in the usability of the iPad. Now, a lot of things I'm talking about, they will affect you whether you get the regular iPad or the old iPad Pro versus the new one. I'm just straight up talking about the brand new redesigned iPad Pro with the magnetic pencil. You'll find the same problems with the 2018 iPad Pro because it only uses this same pencil, the first generation pencil. The new iPad Pro is the only one that uses the magnetic second generation pencil. And so that's definitely something to keep in mind. If you want an iPad Pro, you can save a little bit of money by getting the early 2018 version versus the brand new one. Even the pencils themselves, this old first generation one is $99 versus the new one is $129. It's a big price difference, but I feel like the price difference is worth it because it's just so much more intuitive and easy to use. Now this one does have more of a matte finish on it, so you don't get that same kind of slipperiness to the pencil itself. I could definitely see the new pencil being a whole lot easier for people if you do get clammy hands and you're using your pencil a lot. You definitely won't have that slipping and sliding as much as you would with the first generation pencil. All right, now I'm gonna dig into my notes and go over the nitty gritty. Those are just my main cons for why I chose them. There's a couple of minor obvious things, like this screen is a whole lot smaller than the 11-inch. I think this is a 9.7-inch versus an 11-inch, so it's a lot more real estate when you're getting the 11-inch iPad Pro. And of course, you can get the bigger one too and have way more real estate on the screen. Now, I will say, for aesthetics, I actually prefer the white borders or bezels around the edge. I think the white is really beautiful. And I also love, love, love the color of this one. I did get the gold. They do not make the new iPad Pro in gold, so I was really disappointed in that since my phone and my watch are both gold. And this one really matches the watch well. I don't know if you guys can see. The color on that matches really well. If you want to be matchy-matchy, Definitely this is the way to go. Get this gold one from early 2018. It's just a really beautiful gold. It's that bronzy pinkish hue. And I love the color. I really wish the iPad Pro came in this color. It's just gorgeous and I love it so much. And I will say the thing about the bezels here is they are not even, whereas the iPad Pro, the bezels are even the entire way around. And it's just an aesthetic thing. Of course, I'm not gonna pay $600 just because the bezels are nicer. It's just one of those things that weighed me in favor of the iPad Pro versus the regular iPad. I did find in use, the battery on the regular iPad was running out a whole lot faster than the iPad Pro. For instance, this morning, I have been using this iPad Pro now for like an hour and a half. I've been taking notes, using it as a digital planner, and I'm still on 100% battery life. I don't know if you guys can see up in that corner. Still says 100%. So these are just my YouTube notes I wrote in my digital planner, and I will do a lot of digital planning videos because I'm totally hooked now. But I'm using it for my video notes right here. So if you see me looking down and looking at notes, I feel like the battery life was just no comparison. So if it's something that you're going to be using a lot, I would urge you to go for the iPad Pro. It does have a much better battery. As far as pros, I feel like the regular iPad is a little bit more sturdy. It just feels a little heavier and a little bit more sturdy in my hands. Now, I was mentioning in the videos that I could feel like pressing in the middle of the new iPad Pro and it felt really flimsy. I'm getting the same kind of thing in the middle of this one. If you press in, you're gonna feel the give. And so that's just kind of an iPad thing. I didn't realize that it would be an iPad thing. My first and only iPad was actually a second generation iPad and my little girl uses it now, but it has a big boxy, shock-proof case on it. It's also way, way thicker than the iPads are now. And so I never had that give feeling to it. And since these ones are all thin, you do have that feeling. And so I would just say, get a case, be very careful with it. You're dealing with a very expensive product, treat it as such. And so you just have to know if they're really thin, they're gonna be a little bit delicate. One of the other pros I feel like with the regular iPad is the camera does not stick out. It's just flat. And I find that's really nice to have it as a completely flat surface. With the new iPad, that thing is sticking out. That's a honker. It does slightly wobble if you're setting it on a flat surface, but my main concern is scratching up that lens. It's just sticking out, and so when I'm setting it down, I'm usually setting it down in the kitchen on a granite countertop, which is, a stone countertop, and I'm really worried I'm gonna scratch that up. I did end up getting a case after my customer service fiasco. They did offer me the Smart Folio case. It does leave that lens off the counter, which I do really prefer, so I don't worry about it scratching. That's something to note. If you want to use these without a case, I would definitely recommend the regular iPad because it is flat and you don't have to worry about that lens. Also, the gesturing is pretty much the same with the regular iPad versus the new iPad Pro. You can go from the top right and scroll down to get all of your little dashboard things. You can also scroll up slightly to get the dock and scroll up all the way and see the apps that you have open. They're the same gestures. I just found them to be a lot more fluid in the new iPad Pro versus the regular iPad because you still have that home button, and so to close out apps you're still pressing the home button versus the swiping up to cancel out of apps. So especially if you have an iPhone that doesn't have the home button anymore, you might want to really consider the iPad Pro because you're not going to deal with home buttons at all. So bottom line, I definitely, for what I'm doing, I could totally get away with the regular iPad, but I really just wanted the best of the best. I wanted to love it. For me, the iPad Pro was it. I'm really happy that I tested out the regular iPad so I could know for sure that that $600 difference really does mean something as far as the workability and usability for me. I feel like it's just so much nicer and more convenient how everything just works with this one, and I don't have to worry about the clunkiness of the pencil and the charging and all of that. It just came down to convenience. Like I said, the new iPad Pro is totally not perfect either. It does have that big camera sticking out on the back. It is a little bit flimsier, I feel like, than the regular iPad is. And also the color options suck. If you want gold, you're just out of luck. So you do have to choose just between gray and silver. I really do want to touch on my video that I talked about the customer service issue. I feel like looking back at it, I was really angry in the video. That's after it had already happened. And I just want to assure you guys, I was not mean to the people in the store. Looking back, I wish I had been a bee in the store and made a bigger deal. I just kind of took their word for it and sat there and fumed, and instead of just being like, I really need to speak to a manager, let's get this done, and making a bigger stink. I feel like I would have saved myself a lot of time and anger if I had done that, because it seemed like if I had done that, the managers would have made it right then on the spot. It's one of those things, like when I'm saying the video, I'm talking about the whole thing and I'm being really angry. That's not how I was acting in the store. I was being really polite to the people. If they were pretty intuitive people, they would have totally known I was kind of ticked off, but I wasn't being rude or mean to them at all. I was trying to be really polite and patient with them. The only person that got any sort of flack from me was the person on the phone. I do feel really bad. I was pretty rude to her, but she even came on the phone and just started chastising me really rudely for not waiting for that email. She was just like, I can't believe you didn't wait for your email. Why did you not wait? You're supposed to wait, and kept going on and on. I was like, listen, this has been hours. I am totally over it at this point. I'm incredibly frustrated. I really gave her the brunt of my frustration. I was not mean to her at all. I didn't yell or name call or anything rude, but I was just not nice to her. When she was starting out being rude to me, I just kind of gave it to her back a little bit. And so I do feel bad for my behavior on that part. But other than that, I feel like I conducted myself really nicely and politely and kindly. I don't want you guys to think from that video like how I'm reacting afterwards being like how I reacted in person, how I'm like retelling the story and I'm giving my thoughts on it. That's not how I was acting in real life. I was really pissed off, but I was not being mean to people. And so I just wanted to give you guys that little clarification, because when I went and watched the video back, making sure everything was okay in the video, I'm like, wow, people are gonna be like, well, you were rude to them and that's probably why nobody helped you. And it wasn't like that at all. I was being really nice. I was like begging people to be like, please, let's cancel this, because I have worked in customer service. I know how crappy people can be to you when they're ticked off, and I try very hard to not be like that to people. I try to give everybody some basic dignity and respect, and I expect that in return. And so I was just really put off by the whole situation, and the video was my anger afterwards. I think if I had acted rudely in the store, they would have gotten a manager for me and everything would have worked out a little bit better. Sometimes it kind of sucks being nice to people, because you do get put in these situations where nobody gives a crap. You don't get up that chain. Like, I should have just been rude and demanded to speak to a manager. I didn't want to be entitled and be a jerk. So anyway, I wanted to give you guys that little disclaimer. Most of my videos, I feel like I really try to get that point across, that it's good to be kind and thoughtful about your fellow human. And so I didn't want that video to come across that I was really rude to people, because I wasn't. And I've worked at a restaurant. I know people crap on customer service people or people in service positions. And so I really try my best to be kind and courteous to people, even in situations where they totally crap on me. Anyway, I'm really glad the whole ordeal is done. I'm glad I finally picked an iPad. I can go return this one now that I made this video and talked about both of them. I hope it helped you if you're looking at the iPads. I definitely just recommend going for the iPad Pro. It is just such a great product. It is a little bit flimsier, like I said. The pencil is totally a game changer. I would not want the first generation pencil if I could help it, so I'm keeping the big one. They did give me the Smart Folio case because of my horrible customer service experience, and I really appreciate that. I will use it and cherish it. I'm really thankful that they made it right for me. I'm again an Apple fan, so I hope you guys found this video helpful. Give me a thumbs up, and I will try not to do so many iPad videos all in a row. I feel like I have done so many of them the last couple of weeks, just getting through this whole ordeal and finally deciding on which iPad to keep. I do plan on doing digital planning videos for you guys, but I won't have them at this crazy frequency. It'll be like once a week or once every other week as far as the digital planning goes. So I hope you guys will stick around and subscribe. Have a great day, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.